Hi, I'm Chia and welcome back to Life in Chapters. I wanted to film another reading vlog this week. So recently, this was a part of my most anticipated releases, is Reckless. This book came out on July 2nd and I picked it up on the day of the release, and I went to Barnes & Noble to pick it up. I wanted to read Powerful first because I wanted to read the novella first. The last book I'll be reading for this reading vlog is Funny Story. I wanted to read Funny Story. It's on my TBR. All of these are on my TBR for July. I feel like I'm going to be destroyed by this book because it is a trilogy, so the next book is not coming out until next year, April. I think Lauren Roberts just announced that her third book is going to be called Fearless, and that's going to be the conclusion of it. Feeling that the cliffhanger is going to kill me in this one, so I need something happy to end off this reading vlog, so I'm going to read Funny Story. Let's get right into it. This one is a novella from Peyton's friend's point of view, named Adena. And she and Peyton are really close friends, and she and Peyton live in the slums. And this starts off with them meeting each other for the first time. And they sort of have like a sisterly relationship where Peyton watches out for her the whole entire time and Adena watches out for her. So it starts off with Adena after she says goodbye to Peyton after she gets thrown into the trials. There's another POV in here that we get introduced, and his name is Makoto. I don't know his story yet, and we just got to his chapter. His nickname is Mac, and he is meeting Adena for the first time because they had a run-in earlier, and then now this is when Peyton is leaving to go to the trials, and he kind of notices Adena because he recognizes her. She's saying goodbye to Peyton as she gets taken off to the trials. So we just started off with that. This book is not that long. It's 220 pages, so this shouldn't take me that long to finish, but I will update you guys when I'm close to finishing this book. I wanted to film a little update for you guys. I did end up finishing Powerful. This was a very short book, so it didn't take me that long to read. Despite the fact that I already knew what was going to happen in this book, the ending still killed me because I started crying at the end despite knowing what was going to happen. If you read Powerless, you already know what happens in this book. So I'm not really trying to give away too much because it is a novella that it does happens at the same time as Powerless. We do meet a new character, Mac. Maybe he will be featured in the next book. That's the reason why I wanted to read the novella first before I dove into Reckless. I'm gonna get started on this. But the only thing is, I will be going on a trip soon. I will be going to Vegas with a bunch of my friends and my boyfriend, and I don't know how much reading I will get done, but I will read a little bit of this before we leave, so hopefully I can give you guys a little bit of an update before we leave. Silly me, I seriously thought I was recording when I wasn't. But anyways, I wanted to film a little update about this book. I'm liking it so far. What's happening right now, because of the events that happened in Powerless, it's a cat and mouse game right now. It's one of the main characters trying to chase after the main character, and the other one just trying to run away. But they are finally catching up to each other, and they're in the same area finally. But the thing about it is that if you know what happened in Powerless, you know why they're chasing after each other. But nothing has really happened so far, but he has finally found her. The thing I loved about Powerless is the banter between the two characters. It's a case where he falls not only first, but he also falls harder. And he wasn't shy at all about sharing his feelings, sharing what he thought about her, especially when you're in his POV. The banter is so good, and the dialogue between the two characters was my favorite thing between the two. So the first 100 pages, obviously, if you know what happened in Powerless, you know why they haven't really interacted with each other, why he's chasing after her, and why it's a cat and mouse game right now. And I'm really liking it so far. It's just that for me, personally, I love Powerless. I love the interactions between the characters. But at the same time, it's a fantasy romance. If it was just a romance, I could deal with a lot of dialogue just happening between the two without any plot. But so far, 115 pages in, there is no plot. It's literally them running across the desert. That's all that's been happening. But hopefully there'll be something more that happens. But right now I'm getting ready to go on a trip with a bunch of my friends, as I mentioned before. So I might not be able to read as much over the weekend, but I will update you when I do have something else to talk about. I wanted to film another update for you guys. I am back from my trip, and I did film as much as I could, but I wanted to live more in the moment. We went to Vegas because we wanted to attend a convention that was happening over there called EVA, and it was my first time attending, so I wanted to experience it without the camera lens as much as I could. So hopefully I got enough footage for the trip for you guys, but otherwise it is a week later. Fortunately, I did not read as much as I could because I wanted to spend more time with my friends and also experiencing a lot of stuff while we were on the trip, as everyone does. And I decided not to bring this book along with me because I don't feel like I would have been able to give it the proper attention that it needed, because this is one of my most anticipated reads. So I wanted to wait till we got back to read it. And then when we got back on Monday, I ended up getting sick. I ended up getting a fever on the last night there, and ended up spending the last week and a half sick. And as much as I wanted to read some more of this book, the last thing I wanted to do was stay up, and I could barely stay up more than a few hours, and I kept taking a lot of naps. But I'm feeling so much better now, and I'm in recovery, so I started reading more of this. I got maybe like 200 pages in, and I don't remember if I included this in my last update or not, but I was having a little bit difficulty because that there was no plot going on, and there's still no plot going on. The banter is back. I love the banter. The banter between the two are amazing, but what I'm starting to feel from this book right now is that it's sort of starting to be a novella. And I know over the last week or so, I don't know where Lauren Roberts mentioned, this book is supposed to be like a bridge book where it was necessary for things to happen in order for certain developments between the characters and events to happen. But at the same time, I still need the plot and the story to move forward. And currently where I'm at, 200 pages in a 374 page book, for a plot to not have happened at all, a little bit disconcerting to me, because especially since I was so anticipating about it. But what's saving for me right now is the banter between the characters. I love their banter, like I said before. Their dialogue is amazing, and I love the fact that there's a lot more moments between the two. Considering how it ended in the last book, I was kind of scared that there wouldn't be more moments between the two, but I'm getting a lot so far, and the romance is full throttle, is so good. But also, I'm getting annoyed with the female character again. When characters have moral conflicts, I really like to have it more in depth, more connection in between the two, instead of the reader having to guess why certain things are causing their moral ambiguity. And the thing about it is that she was a part of a trial, and she had problems about hurting people because she didn't want blood in her hands. but that conflict has heightened more in this book. But at the same time, she's trying to defend herself. And okay, so it just bothers me when people, when main characters have this moral conflict, because you'd think with moral conflicts you would get more of a backstory behind it, but we didn't really get a backstory behind it in the first one, and this one just ramped up even more, and you don't even really know why it's ramped up even more. Like, I have a pretty good idea why, but I, as the reader, should not have to have the good idea why. It should be in depth, especially since you're getting POVs from not only the male main character, but also the female main character. And another issue that I'm having with it is that the repetitiveness, it's getting very redundant because there's two conversations that the characters keep having with each other, and it keeps going over and over. But the thing I'm liking about this book right now is that we're actually getting more in-depth stories of what happened in the past between the two. And there's something that one of the characters did against the other, and then the character did something else to the other. You know what? I want to get more in depth into this book to talk about my opinions more. I might do spoiler talk for this book because of the fact that it is one of my highly anticipated releases, and there are things that happen in Powerless that does go back into this. So if you have not read Powerless, and obviously if you haven't read this book, I will do spoiler talk at the end of this video once I finish this, so I will leave timestamps. So if you haven't finished reading this book, I will leave timestamps on when the spoiler talk happened. Okay, back with a reading update. But before I finish off my final thoughts on Reckless, I wanted to do a little book haul for you guys. I did do a little bit of book shopping a few days ago, so some books are gonna be slowly coming in. So I'm starting to slowly get my fall reads together and all my fall TBR, and I started looking at other books that I wanted to read, and I figured that I wanted to read more spooky books in the upcoming months, especially in September, October, so I'm slowly building up my TBR for that. I do have some books on my shelf that I'm getting together for that TBR, but I'm starting to order books as well for it. The first book that I ordered for that is Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. All I know about this is that it follows a bunch of witches. One of the characters named Zara wants to find a way to resurrect her sister, and another girl named Jude has a curse. I can't wait to read this when it starts getting cooler in the fall, so it's definitely on my fall TBR. The next book that I want to read is called Blood and Steel by Helen Schurer. It's a part of the Legends of Thesmar book. I believe this is one of 4 books. It's a completed series. I've heard nothing but great things about this book. I heard the characters are good, it's a great fantasy romance, and I believe it's dark fantasy as well, I'm not too sure. But I wanted to start reading this series, and I can't wait to see what I think about this book. If you read this book, let me know in the comments what were your opinions about it. No spoilers, obviously, but yes, I can't wait to start this series. And then I ordered 2 bookmarks, and I don't really go for like the regular paper ones because a few of the bookmarks that I got are like the metal hook ones. I really like those ones because, I don't know, I just like how pretty they are and how handmade they look. So I got some more of the metal ones from Amazon, but I found this gold one. I usually don't go for like gold accessories, but I thought this was so pretty because there's a little butterfly at the end, and also the pink flower at the end as well. I don't know if you guys can see that. I've loved the metal bookmarks ever since my boyfriend bought me a few last year for Christmas. I don't like bookmarks that kind of bend the bind a little bit because I'm not a spine breaker, so there's that one. And the next one I got is a silver version of that with a different colored flower, purple flower, and then the silver butterfly right there. It's so pretty, and I can't wait to have these in my books. I wanted to buy more bookmarks because I find that I'm reading multiple books at once now. So I'm running out of bookmarks to put in my books. So yeah, I wanted to buy some more. To continue with my thoughts on Reckless. So I finally finished Reckless. Based on my last check-in, my thoughts still haven't really changed. There was literally no plot until the last 50 pages. Because of that, I'm going to give it a 4 stars. It was really teetering on like close to 3.75, 3.5 for me, but the banter that I love so much was really good. Lauren Roberts knows how to win me over with the banter between characters, and just when you think Kai can't get any sweeter with his words, he said so many more things to make it sweet. And the ending left off on a cliffhanger that came out of nowhere. So I don't know how to feel about the cliffhanger, but I'm excited for their book to come out in April of next year. I'm really excited to see how Lauren Roberts is going to conclude this trilogy and what the solution will be to what happened at the end of this book. I still think it was a 4 stars because the characters make it what it is for me. So 4 stars all the way. I recommend it. It's just it was partly my fault because of the fact that I love Powerless so much. I had such high expectations for this book, but it kind of disappointed me a little bit, to be honest. But at the same time, I still loved it, and I can't wait to read the conclusion. I just hope she answers a lot of questions that we have. Granted, there was a lot of questions that we had that ended up at the last book that she answered in this. It's just that the cliffhanger brought out more questions than anything. But if you haven't read this book yet, this is the spoiler part of it because I really want to talk about the end. If you don't want any spoilers, please get out of this part. Halfway through the book right now, I'm not liking the fact that we're not getting any answers to any of the questions that we have. Like, sure, like halfway through we are getting to the point where she finally mentions the fact that she knows that he killed her dad, and also he keeps throwing back in her face that you killed my dad, but I'm like, you weren't even close to him, and he's doing it out of duty because he feels a sort of responsibility towards his brother now, since his brother is the king, and his brother basically told him to go on this mission to find her because obviously of what happened at the last book, because she killed the king and his dad and his brother's dad. But it keeps getting repeated over and over, and it's redundant, and that's the only thing that's been happening so far. Why are they chasing each other around the desert, then they keep getting captured by other people, and then at the same conversation keep repeating to each other over and over like, oh, I'm going to kill you, but yet he keeps telling her, I'd like to see you try, when like they get close to actually like throwing knives at each other. But she doesn't. Obviously she doesn't, because she clearly has feelings for him. He's throwing at her, oh, you're an enemy to the crown, you're a criminal I'm trying to take back. And she's like, oh, why can't you just call it even? We both killed each other's dads and everything. And I'm like, it keeps repeating over and over. And instead of a plot happening, these redundant dialogues keep happening. And like I said before, I love the two main characters' interactions with each other. But I'm kind of disappointed right now because there's stuff that keeps repeating over and over that 200 pages in, we should not have the same dialogue over and over. There should be more plot happening. Forward the story. And there's also a POV of Kit in here as well, and I don't get what this POV is trying to do. Is it trying to get the sympathy of the reader, or are we trying to get more information from his POV? Because we've gotten 0 so far. But right now it's it's starting to sit low on my ranking scale, and the only thing saving it so far is their banter between each other. And I love the writing that Lauren Roberts has between the two characters because it's so swoon-worthy, especially the stuff that Kai tells her all the time. But so far, that's my thoughts and opinions during the spoiler part. So I'm going to finish reading this and hopefully have more of an update for you guys. And I heard it does like end off with more questions than anything, so we'll see what happens after that. But I'll update you guys when I finish this book, because I am going to finish this book. Anyways, the part at the end where Kit proposed, who saw that coming? I don't know how to feel about that, because maybe that's the reason why we got so many POVs from Kit. I was talking to my friend about this because she read Reckless a week ago before me, and I messaged her and I asked her, I didn't know what to expect the ending, and she said, oh, I kind of expected it because of the stuff that we learned from Kit's POV about how he was writing the letters to get his feelings out, basically, and how he kept thinking about Peyton the whole entire time. And I don't know the reasons behind him proposing. The thing I was confused about is the character named Callum. Callum was introduced as the advisor to the king, but yet Callum is talked about in Peyton's point of view as one of the leaders of the rebellion. And the part where they started talking about how he was captured along with his daughter, but he wasn't captured. He was kept as the advisor of the king. And the whole entire time when Kit and Callum had the meeting where Callum handed him the box. I was thinking the whole entire time whenever we went through Kit's POV is, what is this? Is it something that will delay whatever feelings he has, that will make him a cruel king? What was it? I did not expect to have an engagement ring in the book, so I can't wait to hear the answers to that. If you read this book, let me know your thoughts below. Obviously spoiler free, because we don't want to be spoiling people who haven't read the book. So on to the next book that I'm going to read for this reading vlog. I decided to leave the funny story for the end, and I did start reading this already. We start off with Daphne, who gets jilted by her fiance because her fiance ends up going on a bachelor trip, and on this bachelor trip not only is guys on here too, but his female best friend's there as well. His female best friend named Petra. Petra ends up confessing her feelings for Peter. Peter comes back from the bachelor party, ends up breaking things off with Daphne and telling her that she has to move out because the house that he owns is under his name, and then he and Petra are going to be living there together, and basically kicks her out and says that she has to find a new place within the next week. So she ends up trying to find a place to look for, and also wants her to move out. And Miles, who is Petra's ex, comes over to Peter's and Daphne's place to confront Peter, and finds Daphne there and basically asks her if it's true because Petra doesn't break up with them in person. Petra leaves a letter to him saying that she's going to move out and that she's going to be moving in with Peter. Since Daphne is out of a place to live, basically, she ends up asking if he has an extra room, and she asks if she can move in with him since she's out of a place to stay. So what they end up doing when they move in together is they end up coming up with a plan, basically a fake dating trope of them pretending to date each other, basically make their exes jealous and to move on with their lives, and they also are friends with each other. Miles is a bartender at a local winery, and he knows a lot of the local farmers and local produce sellers, and has a lot of good friendships. He's one of those people where he makes friends with an instant and knows exactly how to talk to people. Daphne, she's more of a loner, and she says that she doesn't really have any close friends because the friends that she had were Peter's friends, and she tried her best to make sure that she fit in with the group, that she did everything to be the perfect hostess, because we find that she grew up a lot, moving every couple of years with her mom, and her mom was literally her main friend the whole entire time. So this is her journey to also trying to make her own life and her own friends that is outside of being in a relationship. So I really like the fact that Daphne is a librarian who loves books so much, and she goes over a lot of the reasons why she's a librarian, and literally my dream job. And I love the fact that she loves books genuinely, and she has a lot of memories tied to some of her familiar memories, and because of her dad who's non-present in her life, there's some things that she had memories with him in libraries, and that's one of the reasons why she's a librarian. I love the fact that she has a hard time making friends like I do. She's very introverted, and she doesn't think that she offers a lot of things to people, and has very low self-esteem. Emily Henry, I love being back in her world. Emily Henry has a way of writing the first sentence and making you fall back in love with the story, doesn't matter what characters it is. So I'm excited to continue on with this story. Hi, I'm back with another reading update. I finished Funny Story. Absolutely 5 stars. I think that this is going to become one of my favorite romances of all time. It doesn't necessarily top Happy Place for me, but I think this is number 2. Number 1 is always going to be Happy Place until I read more of Emily Henry's books, but right now Funny Story is amazing. I really like how everything wrapped up. I did have a little misgivings about Miles at some point of the story, because there are things that he decides to do that like kind of rattles my brain a little bit, because he chooses to not to omit something that he did for her after they decided to be truthful and honest with one another. I do like how they worked it out at the end, and this is definitely a top 1 for me, and it's 5 stars for sure. Just to wrap it up, I did really overall like all the books that I read. This vlog was kind of recorded all over the place, and it was recorded over a 2-week period. As I mentioned in this video, I went on vacation and I ended up getting sick. So unfortunately, it just took me longer than usual, but overall, I read Powerful after waiting so long to read it. and then I read one of my most anticipated releases. Overall, it was a little bit disappointing for me, but I do highly recommend the whole entire series, so I hope you guys give it a try. And the last one I read in this vlog was Funny Story. I thought it wrapped up everything wonderfully, and I think I'm going to start doing that from now on. If I know that I'm going to be reading heavy fantasy vlogs, I'm going to top it off with something that's a little bit more lighthearted. I highly recommend the books that I read this week, and thank you guys for sticking with me throughout this whole entire long vlog, and I appreciate you guys constantly watching these videos and showing your support. And until next time, bye!